Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this essay as you would a radio broadcast and listen to it in your car or your truck as you're driving along, or put in those earbuds and listen to it on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to just have a little quick look at the British federal or British national election and dive into some of the numbers there. But the primary part of this essay is going to look at what will the deep state, globalist cabal do to neutralize and undermine and besmirch and humiliate the Reform Party. Now, remember, the Reform Party is, I think they've got 5, maybe 6 seats in Parliament, well below what they should have got, given that over 4 million people voted for them, which again was a smaller number than I expected. I thought they'd have easily got 5 million plus votes. But anyway, the voting integrity of that election, we can maybe look at it in another essay. But anyway, Nigel Farage, who's one of the if not the most proficient electoral sort of performer in Britain today, is now in the federal or the national parliament in Westminster, and some of his colleagues or fellow members of that political party are also in there. Now, with someone like Nigel Farage in Parliament able to ask the difficult questions and able to ask the piercing questions, and I think you can picture it now as Nigel Farage stands up in the federal parliament there, the national parliament, and says, "Will the Prime Minister comment on?" And this. So, the capacity will actually be someone in the parliament who will attempt to hold the government and other members of parliament to account. And now the mainstream media will do everything they can to not cover it and to downgrade it and to humiliate or to present Mr. Farage in an unflattering light. We know that already. I mean, look at the effort mainstream media went to including putting undercover operatives in there and false flags and so on. We know all this is coming. We know that the Justice Department, the security services, the spy services are all controlled by the deep state, and they will do whatever they can. There won't be an email or a phone call or a letter or whatever going in or out of the Reform Party political machine that won't be being vetted microscopically by the deep state operatives and flunkies, and looking at how can we use this to embarrass them or to claim that they're behaving illegally. And it'll be, the lawfare they use against Trump currently. We'll be seeing things similar to that. There'll be a very mysterious large number of swastikas will just magically appear with the Reform Party, and all this sort of thing we know is going to happen. They'll be using everything they can to fuck them up. But I just want to just going over the numbers at the national election. Now, the Labor Party, as I understand it, got a 1 or 1.5% more votes than they did 5 years ago. So hardly an endorsement of their policies and so on. But they got. What was it, 250 odd seats in Parliament or something in the last election. And I haven't got the numbers in front of me. And this time they've got over 410. I think it was 411 last time I looked. Now they were able to do that on, and I made just a couple of notes on this. They were able to get 2/3 of the seats in the Parliament with only 34% of the votes cast. So 34% of the votes cast for something like 75% of the electoral districts. That seems a little bit out of whack. But importantly, the people in Britain and elsewhere around the West, because they've been lied to and cheated and treacherously deceived so often and so unrelentingly by the globalist cabal, a lot of the real people are checking out of the political process and just not bothering to vote and not bothering to participate in what was otherwise seen to be a civic duty of sorts. So only 50, as I understand it, only 58% of the registered voters in the United Kingdom turned up to vote. Only 58%. I mean, fuck. Now it's not compulsory, as I understand it, in the UK, but only 58% of the people voted. I mean, wow. Now, a large proportion of migrants and so on don't bother voting, but a lot of white people have now believed that the establishment, the political establishment, no longer represents them and is determined never to represent them again. So they've kind of checked out of the civic process, and that's deeply alarming, and anyone should be alarmed by that. But for the globalists, the globalist cabal, the deep state, this is a cause for celebration. I mean, the more white people give up on the process, the greater the globalist stranglehold of British society and white Western society becomes. So that's a good thing for the globalists. We still have a situation where the will of the people has to be recognised to some extent. The globalists are eradicating that as quickly as they can, but they have to go about it sort of in a fairly, they have to take a longer term view over this, and so they can't just come in and say, right, elections are all banned, because that would cause a furor. So they have to just death by 1,000 cuts destroy Western democracy, and they're going about that with gusto. So only 58% of the people registered to vote actually voted, and the Labor Party only got 34% of those votes. Now, we need to just sort of realise this, that just slightly less, like 19.8% of the registered voters of the United Kingdom, so less than 20% of the registered voters of the United Kingdom actually voted for this party, Labor Party, and yet they've got 3/4 of the seats. So this is they're hardly underwritten by popular support. Far from it. If only 20% of the registered voters, less than 20% of the registered voters voted for you, you've got no fucking mandate or ringing endorsement. Far from it. Quite the opposite, I think, is the case. Did any other party get a higher level of endorsement? Well, no, and we need to understand and recognise and accept that. But nonetheless, so the Conservative Party, the Tories, Boris Johnson's party, Rishi Sunak's party, which the globalists completely and totally and utterly control, by the way. They can install a foreign national prime minister, as the British prime minister without so much as a vote or a by your leave as the prime minister of the United Kingdom. The globalists can just do it. And that's it. They just have that power to remove prime ministers whenever they want and install their own flunky stooge as the prime minister, should they choose to do so. That's the power the globalists have and the influence within the Conservative Party. Now, whatever you might say about Liz Truss, and I think the idea of Liz Truss being a prime minister is in itself a grotesque joke, but nonetheless, the party membership chose Liz Truss, given the options they had, chose Liz Truss as the prime minister, and that should be respected. At the very least, whatever again you want to say about Liz Truss, she did try and do some things for Britain, which Rishi Sunak and Starmer and Boris Johnson did not do. So on that basis alone, but yet they just unceremoniously dumped Liz Truss and conspired, the deep state conspired to get rid of her, even though she'd been voted in by the Conservative Tory membership. I've got a real problem with that. And that they installed Starmer without a vote, and I have a problem with that too. And it illustrates the reduction and how the Western democracies have been reduced to really, childlike and infantile state where the globalists are controlling it and directing it and giving out their orders. But the Conservative vote collapsed from 44% of the vote, with a higher voter turnout back in the day. So a quite legitimate vote and a legitimate mandate. Their vote collapsed from 44% of the total to 24%. I mean, fuck. I'm rounding the numbers off here, by the way. So that's a colossal drop. Now, the Reform Party that had gone from kind of nowhere before got, I think, 12.5%. And That was an impressive performance, given that the campaigning time was short. They had no political infrastructure, and they were really, they weren't a well cashed up party at all. And so, given the lack of preparation, again, that the non-existent political infrastructure and branch infrastructure and the like, that was a pretty impressive performance. I thought they would have got more votes, because there's a gazillion people pissed off with the way Britain has been so shabbily treated by its major parties. So I would question the vote counting here. Some of the high watermarks, or some of the reasons for optimism, is that the Reform Party, as I understand it, came second in over 100 electoral districts. So that illustrates how potentially close it came, that with a few more votes, they could have potentially returned 100 members to Parliament, which would have been earth-shattering. But they would have taken those, many of those would have been taken from the Labor Party, not just Conservative, from the Labor Party. So this would suggest that the Labor majority would have been a working majority, but fairly slim, probably in the order of, say, 330 seats maybe, which is only is only slightly above the midpoint mark. But Reform now has a bridgehead, and hopefully they can gather enough support, private citizen donations, all sorts of things, and they use it wisely. Now, the Reform's got a problem. They're now on the radar. So the globalist cabal have now identified that Reform exists. They have a bridgehead in Parliament. They have a superb parliamentary and public speaking performer in Nigel Farage to sort of build a party around, and he's key to this. So there'll be a lot of energy and effort put into in the deep state. There'll be a lot of energy put into trying to neutralise Farage. They would be obvious. If we can get rid of him, we can get rid of Reform, will be their attitude. So Mr. Farage won't be able to go to the bathroom without the globalists sort of trying to use that in some way to undermine him, or don't be surprised if there's a raid on a close associate of his and 1,000 swastikas, 1,000,000 swastikas are found. It'll be that type of false flag sort of thing. There'll be alleged economic and financial impropriety. There'll be a little wife of a woman will appear with a torn blouse and say he tried to rape me, and so all of that they'll be looking at and thinking, how can we use these things to get at him? Similarly, as the Reform Party, if they've now got a number of MPs, and I have some experience in this, there'll be the deep state will look at inserting activists in there, double agents in effect. If you look at the sort of the world of espionage, double agents in effect to report back on everything that happens, to subvert them, to try and gain their confidence in order to the confidence of the members of the party, including Mr. Farage, try to gain their confidence just so they can treacherously sell them out and stab them in the back and so on. All of this will be going on. As we speak, that the spy agencies and the security agencies, all under control by the globalists, will be sitting down having that sort of conversation right now. How can we fuck these guys up in the Reform Party? And so, how can in the administrative sense and organisational sense, how can the party protect itself against that? Well, it's got a lot of deep thinking to do, and a lot of considering the options and the possibilities. I hark back to the early days of the Trump administration, where the deep state managed to insert numerous spoilers, underminers, espionage, and report back to people that would slow walk any initiative the president tried to put into effect. And really, there was this army, this battery of people that they'd managed to insert in the deep state operatives in order to prevent President Trump from realising his program, but also to dig up anything that could be used against him, to embarrass him, and because again the deep state controls the media machine, and so this is also the case in the UK. So every tiny little morsel will be, there'll be stories of Oh, we were driving along, and Mr. Farage leapt in the front to tear the steering wheel away from the driver because of the swastikas. It'll be this sort of coverage we'll be getting. And they may start off small. There'll be a march for reform parties with magically 100 swastikas will appear in the crowd. These sorts of things will be going on. A lot of setups, a lot of fabricating incidents, and so on. So the party discipline of the Reform Party needs to be, absolutely, they need to be absolutely on top of their game and be prepared to move people out who aren't supporting them, who aren't committed to a sovereign Britain. If you're not committed to a sovereign Britain and a sovereign British people, you're not a member of the fucking Reform Party. It's as simple as that. And they really need to focus on that. Now, whatever skills the people in the Reform Party may or may not have, certainly in the ones that I've seen and being interviewed, I don't detect any great organisational ability. Some have outstanding political skills. Mr. Farage is a case in point. Richard Tice appears earnest and so on, and the others appear to be committed to the program, but the discipline needed organisationally and structurally, and bringing on new people, bringing on members to remember the deep state is going to be trying to get members to sit for reform constituencies in certain districts. They're going to be trying to get that, and they're going to be inserting people who are just there to spoil the Reform Party. Reform's going to appoint someone to be a candidate in such an election, and the media will magically find 1,000 swastikas in this person's land. It'll be that type of thing happening. And so I wish them well. And really the only chance Britain has to remain or to recover its sovereignty and to remain a sovereign, the only chance they have is Mr. Farage and the Reform Party. Every other political establishment and group and outfit is selling the British out as quickly as they can. Mr. Farage and Reform are the only chance the British people have for sovereignty. So I wish them every success, and hope that they have the discipline and the foresight and the management to be able to put their program together and carry it forward to the next election successfully. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.